Cromwell Pole Award would go to Isaac Leitner and David Krikorian for rounds 1 and 2 respectively. It will be the second pole award of the year for both of these drivers. A few days after the running of the Mr. Cobbs 200, ARLA executives announced that the Radii Radiators 300 at Talladega would be run again as the second-to-last race of the season. As you may remember, when this race was run at the beginning of the year, Mark Freestone had his horrific crash towards the end of the first round, and because of the serious nature of the accident, the race was immediately canceled and wiped from the record books. The last time that happened was in 2004 when Floyd Moss was killed at the same track. However, Freestone is still with us, fortunately. Now, because of that, the Talladega track promoters felt that it was not appropriate for ARLA to cancel the race. They believed it should have kept going, just like after any other accident that has resulted in a driver injury. I find it very difficult to blame ARLA because we all thought that it was going to turn out so much worse that day. Yes, but it was ultimately decided that the promoters should be allowed to get their race in. The plan to rerun the race has been in the works for the past few months. The drivers and teams all know about it, and then it finally came time to formally announce it to the public. Tickets for the first running of the race will be good for this race too. In other news, M&J Racing has announced their 4-man driver lineup for 2013. They are merging their operations with Riggs Motorsports. Their lineup will be Kevin Monroe, Taylor Brillin, Leslie Riggs, and A.J. Young. Well, if that doesn't show what an expensive season it's been for M&J, I don't know what will. And now let's move on to the race. We've been running a bit long as it is. Isaac Leitner leads the field of 38 to the green flag. That is Bobby Porteau on his outside. Porteau has 2 wins this year. Leitner gets a pretty good start over Porteau, but look at Ebenezer Quiggles Jr. putting pressure on Leitner right out of the gate. We saw the exact same thing from Quiggles last week at Iowa. He started 3rd in that race, and he's starting in 3rd today, and now he's making a run at Leitner right away. And Ebenezer Quiggles, the points leader, will lead at the end of the first lap. And Leitner now comes under attack from Radomir Stanyachev. And Stanyachev does not hesitate to come after Quiggles. Now, based on what we've heard, Stanyachev could be competing for a full-time ride at Bruce Autosport next year. That's right, the team has been rotating drivers in that 88 car in the hopes of finding someone to take over for Yevgeny Kuznetsov, who is not officially leaving for Katsev in the Master Cup Series yet, but we all know it's going to happen. Stanyachev now has a nose on Quiggles. He will probably have the preferred line coming into turn 3, but based on what we've seen in practice, the grip on the bottom line has been a little bit sketchy. Although Stanyachev quite obviously makes it work, and he now takes over the lead. Stanyachev competes for Rus Autosport in the European Dash Cup Series as well, and he won 2 consecutive races early on in the year, but Quiggles is now coming back after the 88 car. Bobby Porteau in the 74 moves into 3rd place, looking to make a run himself. And Quiggles sends the message to Stanyachev, no, it's not your turn yet. We have a 4-wide situation in the opening lap, so this is going to get hairy. Jason Bates hits the wall, but other than that, they keep it together. Bigsby Foot, Bill Tissam, and Jim Hayes were right in the middle of that. I thought that was going to be a wreck for sure as well, especially with Hayes in there. Oh, and Hayes now hits the wall as Rip Tyler now tries to make a move on Tissam. Rip Tyler won the first round at the Mr. Cobbs 200, and Bigsby Foot won the second, making it a sweep for Powerstream Incorporated as Leslie Riggs climbs the wall after contact with Lane Cranston in the 114. Well, Lane Cranston didn't give her much room at all, did he? But this would not bring out the caution. However, this did. Rip Tyler turns Robert Scott into the wall coming off of turn 2, and Scott gets clobbered by one other car. I think that was Cody Richards who hit him. Richards had a great run at the Mr. Cobbs 200 last week. Here's another angle focusing on Richards in the 53, and Scott just appears right in front of him. He had nowhere to go, and he collected Lucy Barnton, making her ARLA Elite Series debut in the 149 car for Wiper Ildist Racing as well, although Barnton escaped without a lot of damage. Barnton won the ARLA truck race at Grundy County earlier in the season, and she qualified in a respectable 17th tonight. And I understand that she's had a few scouts coming around. This is definitely going to be a great opportunity for her. Ebenezer Quiggles Jr. continues to lead on the restart with Bobby Porteau and Andy Pearson trailing. Porteau got a very good start, and he is coming after the Division by Zero car, coming off of turn number 2. Porteau competed alongside Quiggles' car owner Marcus Leonard in the Team Master Cup Series last year. And now Porteau will take the lead away from Quiggles, who currently has a massive points lead over second place Yevgeny Kuznetsov. Leslie Riggs fell a lap down while getting her car repaired after she climbed the wall, and she is well off the pace. This is a very unfortunate situation for Riggs, who has just had everything go wrong for her in the last few races. And now she's got Yevgeny Kuznetsov going by. Kuznetsov is not having a stellar run so far. He's got to make up those points. Jared Worth is back for the Graphite Max Racing team. He is currently running in 20th place. This is lap 17 of 70. These are rather short races, but it's been a very busy day at the Memphis Motorsports Park. We had a farce modified race earlier in the day. That race was won by our very own Lucas Sweeney, who used to run a lot of modified races before coming over to ARLA. But back to Jared Worth, he has been rather impressive in his few starts this year. In fact, I think this is one of his worst runs, and if 20th place is one of your worst runs, then you've got it pretty good. Libby Bell has made her way towards the front of the field. She finished second to Rick Tyler in the first round of the Mr. Cobbs 200. Bell already has 2 wins of her own this season. In fact, they came in consecutive races at Road America and Piqua. However, the rest of her season has been a complete mess. Well, until just a couple of weeks ago. Maybe Bell can return to form tonight, as she currently tries to challenge Ebenezer Quiggles Jr. for second place. Cletus McGuffey is about to go a lap down to Bobby Porteau, but he slides up out of the way. He's being a very gracious back marker tonight. I think he just overdrove the corner, and that was very fortunate for the leaders, though. McGuffey made headlines last year when he was found to have been driving under the influence at Mosport. He was immediately slapped with a 6-race suspension, but we think he has been sober since then. We briefly talked about Yevgeny Kuznetsov earlier, and he is still stuck in the midfield. Oh, he gets tagged by Laura Cyrus coming off of turn 2 and gets put into the inside wall. Watch out! He gave Lane Cranston a bit of a surprise there, but fortunately they kept it together. Kuzi got a little bit loose after coming across Cletus McGuffey, although I think Cyrus could have given him a bit more room. Libby Bell has now chased down Bobby Porteau, but they've got to deal with Cletus McGuffey again. Oh, Porteau gets into the 04 car, and he spins out, and Porteau goes into the wall from the lead of the race after smashing into the 04 car in turn 3. I don't think he expected McGuffey to be going that slow, and he shouldn't have been in the racing line going that slow anyway. Let's look at this from on board the 74 car. Porteau looks to the inside of the 04, but then he closes the gap very quickly, leaving Porteau with no other option but to run into him. I don't think another breathalyzer test would hurt. Now here's Ebenezer Quiggles running in 4th place. When the wreck happens, he sees an opportunity and makes contact with Libby Bell and almost smashes himself into the end of the pit wall trying to take the lead, but the Patriot Coletonaire just barely beats him to the line. Wow, that would have been a contender for Pass of the Year if Quiggles had a few more inches on Bell. And that's exactly the kind of drive that has gotten him those 4 wins this year. Now here it is from on board the Division by Zero car. He's already making the move on Pearson and then sees an opportunity to take the lead, and he actually did nick those tire barriers lining the end of the pit wall. So Quiggles almost goes from 4th to 1st in one corner, but it could have ended very badly for him. Bell leads on the restart. Quiggles is behind her, but in 3rd is Bell's teammate at Power Steering Incorporated, Bigsby Foot. And again, he was the winner of the 2nd round at the Mr. Cobbs 200. Eric Jackson in car number 3 is a lap down. He grew up racing on short tracks like these, but he just hasn't been there tonight. We're not entirely sure what Gravity Racing is planning on doing with him in 2013, despite the fact that Jackson is the highest in points of the 4 Gravity Racing drivers. We have the battle for 6th brewing between Radomir Stanyachev, Scott Morales, and Jim Hayes. Rip Tyler looks on from 9th place. Morales now makes a run at Stanyachev. He finished in the top 10 at the Mr. Cobbs 200, despite having Mariano Zavala climb over the top of his car. The Groves Racing team has been rather strong at some of the short tracks this year, despite the fact that the only 3 wins this team has gotten in the ARLA Elite Series has been at the high banks of Daytona. Those were 3 straight wins they had at that track, and Morales got the last of them in 2010. The 3rd caution came out on lap 42. Ricky Navarro hits the wall and Taylor Brillin gets into him. The 65 car spins down the track. Leslie Riggs and Barton Sandy are collected as well. And Eric Jackson gets a piece of that. So a bad night gets worse for the number 3 ZombieBusters.com Kvyat. Taylor Brillin in the Zing Energy Blue Star is going to go out of the race. She has been starting to make a habit of sneaking into top 10 finishes lately. Of course, she also has 3 wins in this series, so we've been expecting more from her. But her whole team has been suffering as we've beaten into everyone's heads. Libby Bell continues to lead on the restart. Her teammate Bigsby Foot got around Ebenezer Quiggles Jr. on that last run. We were only approaching halfway into the race, but we could be seeing the makings of another PSI 1-2 finish. They have been among the fastest cars all weekend. Jim Hayes has to pit from a possible top 10 run after he had a flat tire on the restart. This will possibly be his last run in the 26 car this year, as MRD is looking to preserve his rookie status for next year. And while this is happening, the lapped car of James West pushes up the track and puts Ebenezer Quiggles in the wall. Quiggles has been running very well all night long, and we were concerned that this would possibly affect his car, and I don't think he's going to be too happy at West after this. And West hits the wall again off of 2, so something is obviously very amiss with the 69 car. And in the meantime, we got another caution. Watch Rip Tyler and Cletus McGuffey. Tyler moves down into Le Gruel, trying to give the 04 car room. This sends Gruel spinning and triggers a small pileup going into turn 3. Jessica Graham, Benji Flynn, Todd Stater, and Lucas Sweeney are all involved. I'll bet that knocks Sweeney off of Cloud 9 after he won the Farce Modified race. And I saw Lucy Barton back there. She did a good job of not getting herself involved in that mess and actually slowing down. I don't know of too many of the newer drivers who would do that. I guess that experience in the ARLA Truck Series is paying off. In the meantime, Libby Bell continues to lead, and now she's got the lapped car of Laura Cyrus in between her and Bigsby Foot. Cyrus is not having a great race either. She was in second place in points for the longest time, and then she just had some bad luck in Japan, and Yevgeny Kuznetsov took the spot from her. Interestingly enough, her first DNF of the season came at Saitama, so she obviously knows how to finish races, and that's very important, where you can only get points by finishing races. Andy Pearson is in the 3rd spot on lap number 56. Andy Pearson's been running up front at these short tracks this year, trying to get win number 61 in his career, and that victory seems to be very elusive for him at the moment. But we know that he can win races. It was only a couple years ago that he last won, but he just needs to find an opportunity to do so. Ebenezer Quiggles is going to tag the back of Jason Bates coming off of turn 2, and then Bates sweeps across his bumper and puts Ricky Navarro in the wall. This didn't bring out a caution, but Bates in the Carl's Racing Machine had a top 10 run going. I recall a certain other Carl's racing car that stuffed Quiggles into the wall just a few laps ago. Then again, I'm pretty sure Quiggles knows that if somebody's wronged you, you go after the person that actually did wrong you and not his teammate. Jared Worth and Lane Cranston are going to get by the 51 car, and then this will become the battle for 10th. Ricky Navarro in the 34 is a lap down. Remember that Cranston has that new sponsorship from Star I Light, and he just barely missed out on the top 10 at Mr. Cobb's 200, his first race with that new sponsor. So I'm pretty sure he's going to be extra motivated to try to seal the deal this time. Cranston came from a modified racing background, but I don't remember off the top of my head if he was in the Farce modified race earlier today, but I'm pretty sure that the extra track time would have done him a lot of good. Well, and now Jim Hayes is coming in to spoil the fun. Remember that Hayes is a lap down, and I can't say it's very courteous of him to be barging in and breaking up this battle like that. It looks like this is going to come down to a battle between Libby Bell and Bigsby Foot, the Power Steering Incorporated teammates, and one of the factory Tenair teams in the series, but Bill Tissum is stalking them in the Team Thunder car, the other Tenair factory-backed team. The leaders were just trapped behind Cletus McGuffey a moment ago, but Bigsby Foot made no real attempt to take the lead from Libby Bell. Wonder if there are team orders going on there. I don't know, Foot's looking a little bit racy, and if he makes a move on Bell, then that'll put those theories to rest. Oh, speak of the devil, here comes Foot with a run on Bell, coming into turn number 1, but there is not a whole lot of grip on the low side in turn 1, so Bell's going to keep the lead. Foot drops back just a little bit after that, and now Bill Tissum's putting a bit of pressure on him for the second spot. Andy Pearson looks on from 4th. Tissum finished second to Foot in the second round of the Mr. Cobb's 200. However, I'm pretty sure that Tissum is determined to not finish behind Foot again, but Foot is staying just one step ahead of him at the moment. Please don't do that again. Anyway, Libby Bell comes down the front stretch. She will see the white flag this time by. She's got Bigsby Foot hounding her, and the lapped car of James West coming up. Bell certainly dazzled everyone at the beginning of the season, winning 2 consecutive races and sitting at the top of the point standings for a few weeks, but she completely fell apart after that. However, tonight, she holds off Bigsby Foot, and Libby Bell is back. She takes her 3rd win of the year. I would talk about the possibility of Power Steering Incorporated going for another sweep, but the problem is all 3 of their cars were in this first round. So Bell's on top of a PSI 1-2 finish this time around. Bill Tissam ended up in 3rd. We are still not sure what the oldest driver in the rookie class this year is doing in 2013. Andy Pearson is 4th. Scott Morales gets top 5 for Groves Racing, a fairly underfunded team. Bobby Porteau climbed back up into 6th after, and there's no other way to say this, getting screwed over again. Calvin Rayler and his otherwise very, very unnoticeable self grabs another top 10 finish. Ebenezer Quiggles comes back to finish 8th after getting stuffed into the wall by James West. Jim Hayes is 9th. He was actually not a lap down. He caught the yellow flag after he made his unscheduled pit stop and stayed on the lead lap. So when he came in to break up the battle between Jared Worth and Lane Cranston, that was actually a battle for position, and we apologize for questioning his decision to race them. And then our pole sitter, Isaac Leitner, kind of dropped off after the opening laps, but he still finished in 10th place. And now on to round number 2. David Krikorian leads the field to the green flag in the Joe Tree and Lawn Care SAR for Speed Vision, his own team. And on his outside, we have a surprise in Jim Moore in the Mega Mart Tenaire. That was a very good lap that Moore set, although he is now under attack from Herbie Finkelberg and Kurt Walker, who make it 3 wide for 2nd place. Finkelberg ultimately wins out in that battle, and now he's coming after his teammate and car owner for the lead off of turn 4. But Krikorian is able to hold him off at the line. Kurt Walker now putting pressure on Finkelberg for 2nd. He's right on the 96's back bumper. Walker got a really good start right there. Now he's coming after Finkelberg. Walker certainly hell-bent on making a statement in the opening laps, isn't he? Well, I don't really blame him after he blew his engine at the Mr. Cobbs 200 after having a top 5 run going. And now he comes after Krikorian for the lead. Walker is officially the leader at the end of lap number 2. Krikorian tries to make a run around the outside, coming into turn number 1, but Walker ultimately has the momentum on the exit, and Kurt Walker will take full control of the race. You will probably have a hard time believing me, but Paul Lyons qualified in 6th place in the Team Bird number 54 car. Oh, Dejau bounced off the wall, and Lyons almost got caught up, but Lyons is punching well above his weight this weekend, although he is starting to drop through the field in the opening laps. So we'll just have to see if he can hang on. Remember that Lyons has been driving the number 09 Griesberger car for the past couple of months, and he got an 8th place finish at Iowa. But unfortunately, that deal was not for the rest of the year, and Lyons is obviously back in the 54. Joseph Howard blows up early on in the Fernando's Chicken Moto for MRD Motorsports. I wonder if Kiriki Hitsuno's engineers were reassigned to the 17 car. He's been having mechanical problems a lot lately. Holden Roberts in the 55 also had a problem and had to make an unscheduled pit stop, but unlike Joseph Howard, he will make it back onto the track, although he is a few laps down at this point. The first caution came out on lap number 7 as A.J. Young gets into the wall and his teammate Derek Dunning plows into him. Nicole Moreno in the 56 got involved as well. Now here's Alex Carson as he tries to get by this wreck. Watch Ryan Reffett in the 61. He swerves to miss it and knocks Carson out into the grass. But Carson gets back onto the track without a problem. Ryan Reffett would have looked kind of dumb if they had wrecked right there. And oh, Mac Ryland puts Carson into the wall. Now what was that all about? They hadn't done anything to each other, and Ryland just pulled right into the 93, and it looked like he was about to hit him again, but thought otherwise, but the damage has already been done. Well, here's another look at it from on board the Bloody X car. And now Carson's trying to get back in line, and Ryland just turns dead left into him, and it's not like he couldn't have seen him. And look at that, he just tries to make a go at the 93 again. I almost want to say that Ryland's thinking, I'm angry that Carson's trying to cut in front of me. Well, that's another entry in the ridiculous incidents book for this year, and the officials definitely wanted a chat with Rylan after this. Anyway, Kurt Walker leads on the restart. David Krikorian is right behind him, but Krikorian slides up the track a little bit, but so does third place Michael Madrigal, so Madrigal can't make a run at him. And Madrigal was officially announced to be moving over to the Pi car for Math Motors next year. We believe that team's going to be getting a bit of support from M&J Racing, with Madrigal moving over there. And right behind Madrigal is Rachel Rainsford in the 171 Dublin Downs Casino car. Rainsford is looking to redeem herself after the past month has been a disaster for her. The next caution comes out on lap 15 as we've got a few cars going 4 wide off of 2. Allie Riggs gets turned by the 55 of Holden Roberts. The 11 of Patrick Henderson gets some significant damage and runs into the 57 of Ashley Tucker, trying to make it back to the pit lane. Henderson's entry into the series has been greatly anticipated after he had an impressive showing in the Team Master Cup Series race at Indianapolis, but the Irishman has done absolutely nothing this year. Kurt Walker continues to lead after the restart, and Rachel Rainsford comes after Michael Madrigal for third. But then we got another caution as Namimura makes an aggressive move coming off of turn 2, pushes up the track into Ryan Ruffett, and that takes Kirika Hitsuno spinning as well. Hitsuno almost flips over, but instead she just gently grazes the wall on the inside of turn 3. And Mura, Hitsuno's fellow Japanese peer, just overdrove that corner. She swerves back up into traffic and smashes into Kevin Monroe and Nick Howard. And that's going to give the 39 car enough damage to go out of the race. Tiffany Matthews is in 5th place after the restart, although she is now being challenged for that position by Philip Borland in a new paint job for the Pi car. But Matthews in the red-hot race where Lennard is still having a very good run in the opening laps, although she almost cut off Todd Rogarczyk in the 71 Grape Soup car. Matthews herself said that she has been very anonymous lately, although she is tied for 7th place with Leslie Riggs coming into this race. Here is the number 027 American Nut and Legume board, Inglesby for Prestige Racing, with Richard Scott behind the wheel. Scott is currently running in 12th place, although this team failed to qualify for the Mini Indy 500. So I'd say this must be a good morale booster for that team. Prestige Motorsports will be fielding a second car in some of the remaining races this year with Aaron Singer behind the wheel. And here is Jim Moore after his 2nd place qualifying effort getting dumped into the wall by Herbie Finkelberg. He slides back up in front of traffic. Seiju Dejao clobbers him in the 91 car, and he would collect Ashley Tucker in the 57 as well. And this is not going to look good for BB Wolf's Rib Emporium, which is on the 91 car in their home race. Kurt Walker continues to lead in what is probably his best performance of the season so far. But it just seems that whenever Walker has had a good run this year, something inevitably goes wrong. Keep in mind that Walker has not won a race since his championship year in 2007. A few moments later, Rachel Rainsford would make her way around David Krikorian, and now she is trying to work on chasing down Kurt Walker. It's good to see that Rainsford has apparently kept that slump of hers very brief. I think everyone remembers earlier in the season when she got 7 straight top 10 finishes, and that was good enough to land her another year at Gravity Racing. Kelly Splicen was injured in her accident at the Mr. Cobbs 200. She's more or less okay, but she still had to step out of the 42 car for this race, and Jack Dempsey has taken over for her. However, Dempsey is not showing the same pace that he had in the Japanese tour. He is currently running in 27th place and will be in danger of going a lot down very soon. We are not sure what's going on with Dempsey at the moment, but he will be back in the 41 car at Talladega. Mariano Zavala and Kyle Gaffigan battle for position, just a couple spots ahead of Dempsey. So this hasn't been the best night for them either. Zavala was very critical of the quality of the racing in the ARLA Elite Series after he was knocked out of the Mr. Cobbs 200. Yeah, but from what I've heard of Zavala, he is not really justified in criticizing other people's driving abilities. Ryan Ruffett, despite his involvement in 2 incidents this race, is running in the 15th spot as Lucas Flint behind him runs into the wall. So Ruffett's doing a very good job so far considering the season that Terra International Motorsports has had. I see AJ Young in the wall off of 2. Jarko Forsström is currently in 9th place, trying to hold off Nikos Kostopoulos in the 728 car. Jarko Forsström has done almost nothing this year, aside from a few random surges where he runs really well, but then he's usually back to his old self the following week. That inconsistency is kind of odd, but some good runs are better than none at all. Kurt Walker is still building on his lead. He's got a good half a straightaway on Rachel Rainsford at the moment. I'm sure everyone is half expecting him to blow up at some point, but Walker has reported that all of his gauges look good and the car handles fine. It would be pretty big if Walker won this race. You have to remember that none of the Kurt Walker Motorsports cars have won a race legitimately yet, and by that I mean they were leading at the time the checkered flag fell. The team's only victory came on a technicality when Namimura finished second to Benji Flynn at Buffalo Downs in 2010, and Flynn was found to have had traction control in his car, and so he was promptly disqualified, which handed Mura the victory. And then the following week, just before practice started, Mura was allowed to go onto the track and perform burnouts. And during story time over here, Walker picked his way through a gaggle of lapped cars. He's still trying to work on the 63 of Kevin Monroe, but Monroe is not causing too many problems for him at the moment. And fortunately for Walker, those lapped cars did not allow Rachel Rainsford to eat into his lead all that much. Todd Wodarczyk is currently running in 5th place. We are on lap number 53. Wodarczyk practically lit the world on fire last year, winning 2 races as a substitute driver. He won at Verdugo, subbing for Packer Carroll, who had Team Master Cup Series commitments, and then later in the year when he was subbing for the injured Eric Jackson, he won at Watkins Glen. This year has been a little less stellar for Wodarczyk, although he did win at 4 corners, missing his entire front end. So Wodarczyk is still quite capable of generating some buzz, as he now works on Michael Madrigal in the 64 for 4th place. Remember when Paul Lyons dropped back at the start? Well, he has made his way back up into 10th. So again, Lyons is punching way above his weight, running in the top 10 in a Team Burr car. I'd be very disappointed if Lyons didn't get a ride somewhere in 2013. There's almost no question that he deserves it after giving this car quite a few good runs. The 5th and final caution came out on lap 65. Watch AJ Young in front of Jack Dempsey. Young bounces off the wall, Dempsey has nowhere to go, and then he gets hit by Richard Scott, who's still running in 11th place, and that sends Dempsey around. And there were not enough laps to get the race restarted, so we will end it under yellow, but this means that Kurt Walker, who has not won in the last 5 years and has been suffering from mechanical problem after mechanical problem, is going to come across the line and take his 34th career ARLA Elite Series victory and the very first legitimate win for his own team. Walker put on a fantastic race, leading all but 1 lap, and something finally goes right for him. Rachel Rainsford scores yet another runner-up finish. Given how well she's been running despite a couple of hiccups lately, I'd say that a win is just around the corner for Rainsford. David Krikorian, the pole sitter, finishes in 3rd, but it certainly felt like that he faded away as Kurt Walker drove off into the distance. Michael Madrigal gets his first top 5 of the season. It's about time for the guy who won 2 races as a rookie last year. Philip Borland, after struggling in the Math Motors car for quite some time, finally breaks through with a top 5. Todd Wodarczyk finishes in 6th place, making it another top 10 finish for a Gravity Racing Inc. car. Kirby Finkelberg gets the 2nd Speed Vision car into the top 10. Tiffany Matthews is 8th. Jarko Forsström finishes an impressive 9th, but it's an even more impressive 10th place finish for Paul Lyons. That was easily one of the best drives I've ever seen from Paul Lyons, as long as he's been in that 54 car. And now let's take a look at the point standings leaving the BB Wolf's House Special. Ebenezer Quiggles Jr. continues to extend his lead as we get towards the end of the season when it matters the most. Yevgeny Kuznetsov is a massive 152 points behind. Laura Sires is 184 points behind. Everybody is a long shot for the championship unless Quiggles DNFs the next few races. Rip Tyler and Bixby Foot, the Power Steering Incorporated teammates, are 4th and 5th, and Libby Bell, the other Power Steering Incorporated car, has made her way back up into 9th. So PSI could potentially be the only multi-car team to get all of its cars into the top 10 in points at the end of the season. So that just goes to show how good that team's been, despite any struggles they may have had this year. Tiffany Matthews moves up into 6th place. Eric Jackson remains the highest Gravity Racing car in the points. Andy Pearson is 8th, and Todd Stater is still hanging on to the top 10. Leslie Riggs is now down to 11th place. She has really fallen apart in this last leg of the season. Rachel Rainsford, in the meantime, is up to 12th with her runner-up finish. Bobby Porteau is 13th. David Krikorian is 14th. Michael Madrigal is up into the top 15. He is the highest running M&J driver. Calvin O'Reilly is 16th. Rybert Scott is 17th. Ashley Tucker 18th. And then Lane Cranston and Scott Dalitz have officially been eliminated from championship contention.